You know, I consider myself to be a fairly young man at 38. And even in the amount of time since I've turned 18, exactly 20 years, I've seen some drastic changes in the political system in this country, in the financial system, in the information systems in this country. Um, when I graduated high school, people were still paying for news. And the relationship between news consumer and the person that paid their bills, and the people that brought the news to you, was one that was based on trust, not attention, not clicks. So if newspapers started turning into shit rags like what the National Enquirer used to specialize in, people would stop buying it because they were looking for the truth. They were looking for information, valid information, not fucking lies and bullshit. Well, that dynamic has completely changed because even the news organizations that do allow you to pay for news, their budgets are largely driven by ad revenue, not your subscription. So you're a secondary concern at best. And in the cases of organizations that don't even have a subscription model, you're not a consideration at all because they're beholden to you in no way, shape, or form. In fact, you're a commodity that makes them money by you being an idiot and clicking on a sensational headline that's complete bullshit. They get to charge whatever their rate per click is. So all they're looking for is engagement from you. They're not looking to give you any sort of real information, and they could give two shits whether you have any respect for their organization. Now, with the political system, I still kind of remember Watergate being a big deal and some other things that my parents and grandparents used to talk about when I was younger. I even when I graduated, I remember politicians getting in trouble for doing things out in the open that they're not supposed to do. It was a time when if you did something wrong, you couldn't just do a press release and say, we didn't do that, and everybody believes lies. People didn't used to believe lies. People used to believe their eyes, not what they were told. So they had to be careful about what they did in public. They couldn't just blatantly break the law, take bribes, violate constitutional rights, any number of things in the vein of public servants making millions of dollars very early in their public career. That didn't used to happen, and now it does, and nobody cares. I think that if Watergate happened today, nobody would give a shit. I think that's how far we've come. I think that people can do things blatantly against the law and just get away with it, and we're just kind of tolerant of people being self-indulgent little wieners all the way up the chain and all the way down the chain, from the lowest of the low to the people that are in charge of this country. No one has any semblance of accountability or responsibility, virtue. You've ripped the backbone of the West out of our culture, which used to be religion. We used to move forward, whether it was political change in this country, whether it was doing business, whether it was just making progress in our processes. And now we can't even move forward because we spend all the time figuring out what to call each other, how to interact with each other. Am I a man or a woman or a zim 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 zam? I don't even know. What the fuck, dude? You can't communicate if you spend your whole time talking about how to address each other. We used to get right down to the fucking point. We got right to business and we fucking got shit done. And it was that open communication without the worry and the bullshit and the censorship that gave America its edge. We moved in a straight line even faster than China, in spite of the fact that we did not have one singular ruler. We change presidents every 4 years in some cases. But we were able to do that because we had consistency in culture. And we had an understanding of what was right and wrong, good and bad, what was against the law, what would get you arrested, what wouldn't, what was beneficial to the culture. Now we can't agree on that. Some people actually believe that you should be out there cheating on your spouse, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not good for the culture. That's not good for family. That's not good for your children if you have them with your partner. You're breaking apart your family because you are bored, unhappy, unfulfilled. That's a personal problem that you're assigning blame to your partner for not being fulfilling enough. No, you're just an empty vessel. Go find something other than another cock to fill it up with. Or whatever. I mean, men are cheaters too. So it's just, human beings used to at least understand that was wrong. Now we're debating whether or not it's right or wrong to cheat. Whether it's right or wrong to shoplift. You know, in some cities, there's no punishment for that. So we're condoning it. We're actually sensationalizing videos of people who are actually stopping shoplifter because this has become the anomaly, not the norm. You know, and the financial system used to be like the market used to be tied to some metrics. The market's completely divorced itself at this point from underlying value and has become a hype machine. And that's partially a symptom of derivatives, but it's also a symptom of the fact that the government is now just printing whatever money it needs, adjusting inflation accordingly to try to you know, keep the ship from drifting off into space and going into hyperinflation, while also trying to not send us in a recession. And it's actually pretty concerning, the latest Fed guidance that they're going to bring rates down by I think 0.5 or 0.75%. And this means this means that they believe that they need to taper because they believe that if they don't cut interest rates and stimulate the economy a little bit by making borrowing cheaper, that we could head into a recession. But what happened immediately when they made that announcement? Market skyrockets. The Dow goes to 37,000, indicating that just a little bit of gas on the fire is going to send the needle into the red. So I am very concerned about the inflation situation. And if they really believe we're going into a recession, that's probably not enough of a rate cut to really prevent the recession. But if they're wrong about the downturn and they do cut rates, then they are going to feed the fire too much and potentially make everything that you buy even more expensive than it already is. Because people are reacting very incautiously to these announcements. Everybody's acting like the bull market's back on. Crypto's going to the moon. Rates are going back down. Everything is just going to the moon. And that's not quite how things work. So, you know, with the way that prices have gone up recently, the corporate America and their decisions about, well, corporate America should be more regulated by the government. So corporate America is going to make the best financial decisions it can, and it's up to the government to regulate them and make sure that they don't kill the American dream. And the regulators are absolutely failing to do this. Part of the reason that homes are so expensive is because private equity, aka Wall Street money, is entering the private home market in the United States of America, because their investment strategy tells them, and is empirically correct, that they're not producing any more land. So instead of speculating on stocks, which you can issue more stock, I mean, it's a much more, you know, it's dependent on the company decisions, but nobody's creating more land on earth. So they're going to start buying The properties that we used to use as homes for our families, the land that we would normally build a home for our families on, once this disappears into the corporate ecosystem, it is going to no longer be accessible to you, and it probably will never return for public sale again, because these corporations never die. They'll just become landholding companies, and they will remain indefinitely profitable because land, where there's a fixed amount of it, by its nature is a depreciating asset, and it will not ever go down in value unless it's temporarily part of the cycle of ups and downs that we all watch happen, whether it's the market, the housing market, oil prices. Everything goes up and down. So I really don't know what the future holds, but I know that our politicians are not being good stewards and preventing this country from being robbed of its future. They're selling us out, and they're allowing corporations to murder the American dream before our very eyes. And there's not a lot that we can do about it other than just vote all of them out. We need to send a message that we are not going to let this sort of treason stand against the American people, because the Bill of Rights outlines that every man, woman, and child in America has the right, every citizen has the right to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. And if you're deprived of, affordable places to live, and if food becomes so expensive that it's difficult to afford, these are pretty key things in pursuing a life and finding happiness, and not just misery and suffering and slavery and bondage. So our politicians are failing us in a major way, and we are headed back to 18th century England feudalism, where Charles Schwab was saying, "You will own nothing and be happy." That's how serfs used to be in feudal England. It was land-owning lords. Only lords could own land. Peasants could not own land. They were serfs for these feudal lords, and in exchange for being allowed to come inside the castle walls if there was a threat, they would work the land and produce, and they were basically indentured servants. And if you get put in a position where you can't own anything, we're headed back for indentured servitude, because then the landholding companies have a monopoly consortium on the land, and if they decide to price fix, even though it's illegal, God forbid, if they decide to do it behind closed doors, it's very hard for government to catch them, nor does government want to if they're financing the elections and the lobbying and lining people's pockets with bribes. Nobody really has the motivation or will to stop it. So it's time for action. It's time to vote against incumbents. Time to get rid of everybody. Because if we don't do a peaceful revolution through the power of our votes, I believe that there will be a violent revolution coming, which will not be good for absolutely anybody that resides inside the borders of our country. And as an extension of that, I think that if there was a weakness in America that was that clear, where we were fighting internally, we were at war with ourselves, I believe that China is not going to wait for that to take Taiwan, but I believe that it would certainly be the perfect conditions for them to move in and attack while we're distracted fighting with ourselves. And we've got a whole new problem with China, Russia, and any other country that you consider an enemy that has technological prowess and knowledge. It used to be that we had an open political system, and I've read some things about what these other countries have done through their intelligence agencies and some other avenues, the financial systems, as far as manipulating our political system, our educational systems, spending money to change minds. So having an open political system is great for the people. It allows you a choice, but it also allows foreign interference because your system is open. So it's accessible. It's not closed. It's not locked down. And that used to mostly require physical presence. But now we have open social media channels as well, in addition to our, well, supposedly open political system that seems to be weaponized, and on both sides. It seems to be weaponized and being used as a club for the other side. Instead of following the law and being moderate, everybody's becoming extreme on one side or the other and trying to attack the other side for just existing. But these social media channels, something like TikTok or even Facebook that's not owned by China, is completely open for the Chinese government to create whatever accounts they want and start to put FUD or false, uncertain information out there and pollute our information ecosystem with trash and make it very hard for you to understand what's true and what's not. And once you lose faith in the system, then you stop believing everything and you start just rejecting your own leadership because it's all just lies and bullshit and it's fucking you over and you're pissed off. So China, on the flip side, has a closed political system that's very mostly hardened against political interference. I mean, it can still be done, but it's harder to penetrate because it's not open. The consequences are more severe. It's not so friendly to humanity, so they might throw you in a dungeon and torture you. It's not off the table. And so China and others are protecting their social media platforms by censoring the internet and making sure that their people are seeing what's good for the future and building a strong China, Russia, whatever. Whereas our country is allowing anything and everything. And some of that is anti-American propaganda that is simply designed to destroy the lives of hardworking Americans, because America has a lot of enemies in the world, sadly. It is the way it is. So, thanks for stopping by and listening to my bullshit talk, just a lot of nonsense and conspiracy theories is pretty much all you're going to get here. So, yeah, choke on it.